The rain hammered against the windows of our small cottage in the Cotswolds, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 15 years, my life with Isolde had been a tapestry woven with shared dreams, quiet evenings, and the comforting rhythm of everyday life. I was a landscape artist, finding solace and inspiration in the rolling hills and ancient woodlands that surrounded us. Isolde was a primary school teacher, nurturing young minds with a patience and kindness that always amazed me. We were, I thought, happy. That all shattered one Tuesday morning. I'd driven into Stow-on-the-Wold to pick up some specialized paints, a surprise for Isolde, who was working on a new art project with her students. As I walked past the King's Arms, I glanced through the window and saw her. Isolde, not alone but locked in an embrace with a man I didn't recognize. His back was to me, but Isolde's face, it was alight with a joy I hadn't seen in years. A joy that wasn't directed at me. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My breath hitched and my heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I stumbled back to my car, the paints forgotten, the image seared into my mind. The drive home was a blur, the familiar landscape now a mocking reminder of the life I thought I knew. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, pacing our small living room, the scent of lavender from Isolde's potpourri now suffocating. How could this be happening? Was I so blind, so complacent? I replayed the last few months in my head, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. There were late nights at school, Shed said, extra meetings, curriculum updates. I'd believed her, of course. I always believed her. When Isolde finally arrived home, her face was flushed, her eyes bright. "Cuthbert, darling, you're back early," she said, her voice a little too cheerful, a little too forced. She tried to kiss me, but I flinched away. "Who was he, Isolde?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Her smile faltered. "Who was who?" she stammered, her eyes darting around the room. "At the King's Arms. This morning. Who were you kissing?" The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy with unspoken truths. Finally, she whispered, It's complicated, complicated." I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "Kissing another man is complicated." She started to cry, the tears streaming down her face. "Cuthbert, please let me explain." "Explain what, Isolde? Explain how you've been lying to me for God knows how long. Explain how you can betray me like this." She sank onto the sofa, her shoulders shaking. "It just happened," she sobbed. "His name is Barnaby. He's a parent at the school. We've been seeing each other for a few months. A few months." The words echoed in my head, each one a hammer blow to my heart. A few months of lies, of deception, of sneaking around behind my back. A few months while I was busy painting landscapes, oblivious to the storm brewing in my own home. "How could you, Isolde?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How could you do this to us?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. The truth hung in the air, a suffocating presence that threatened to consume us both. I turned and walked out of the cottage, the rain washing over me, unable to cleanse the pain that had taken root deep inside my soul. I spent the next few days in a small, rented room in a nearby town. I couldn't bear to be in the cottage, surrounded by the ghosts of our past. I called my closest friend, Oswin, a retired detective, and told him everything. He listened patiently, his voice calm and reassuring. "Cuthbert, I am so sorry," he said. "This is a terrible thing to go through, but you need to know the truth. All of it." "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart sinking. "I'll look into it," Oswin said. "I have some contacts in the area. I'll see what I can find out about this Barnaby and what he's been up to." I didn't know what to expect, but I trusted Oswin. He was a man of integrity, a man who always sought the truth, no matter how painful it might be. A week later, Oswin called me. "Cuthbert, I need you to come to my office," he said, his voice grim. "I have something to show you." I drove to Oswin's office, my hands clammy, my stomach churning. I knew whatever he had to tell me wouldn't be good. Oswin led me into his office and closed the door. He sat down behind his desk and gestured for me to take a seat. He slid a file across the desk towards me. "I want you to look at these," he said. I opened the file and began to read. It was a collection of documents, photographs, and financial records. As I read, my blood ran cold. Barnaby wasn't just a parent at the school. He was a con man, a fraudster, a manipulator. He had a long history of seducing vulnerable women, draining their finances, and then disappearing without a trace. There were photographs of him with other women, women who looked just as happy and in love as Isolde had looked that morning at the King's Arms. There were bank statements showing large sums of money being transferred from Isolde's account to an offshore account in Barnaby's name. I felt sick. I had been so focused on the emotional betrayal, I hadn't even considered the financial implications. Isolde wasn't just having an affair, she was being scammed. He's been doing this for years, Oswin said, his voice grim. He targets women who are lonely, vulnerable, and financially secure. He charms them, seduces them, and then bleeds them dry. But Isolde wouldn't be so naive, I stammered. She's a smart woman. He's very good at what he does, Cuthbert, Oswin said. He knows how to manipulate people, how to play on their emotions. He probably convinced Isolde that he loved her, that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Isolde wasn't just a cheater, she was a victim. She had been manipulated, deceived, and financially exploited by a ruthless con man. I felt a surge of anger, not just at Isolde, but at Barnaby. He had not only betrayed me, but had also taken advantage of the woman I had loved for 15 years. We need to stop him, I said, my voice trembling with rage. We need to expose him for what he is, Oswin nodded. I've already contacted the police, he said. They're launching an investigation, but we need to be careful. Barnaby is a dangerous man. He won't hesitate to protect himself. Over the next few weeks, Oswin and I worked tirelessly to gather evidence against Barnaby. We interviewed other women he had conned, we tracked his financial transactions, and we built a solid case against him. The police eventually arrested him, and he was charged with fraud, theft, and multiple counts of deception. Isolde was devastated. She was heartbroken, ashamed, and terrified. She had lost everything: her marriage, her reputation, and a significant portion of her savings. She turned to me, begging for forgiveness, pleading for a second chance. I was so stupid, Cuthbert, she sobbed. I was so lonely. I thought Barnaby loved me. I thought he was my soulmate. I looked at her, her face streaked with tears, her eyes filled with despair. I saw the woman I had loved for 15 years, the woman who had shared my life, my dreams, and my heart, and I felt a flicker of compassion. He manipulated you, Isolde, I said. He took advantage of your vulnerability. You were a victim just as much as I was. I didn't forgive her, not completely. The betrayal was too deep, the wounds too raw. But I couldn't abandon her. She was still the woman I had loved, even if that love was now tainted by pain and betrayal. I helped her find a lawyer, I supported her through the investigation, and I stood by her side as she faced the consequences of her actions. It wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to walk away, to cut all ties and start a new life. But I couldn't. I knew that Isolde needed me, even if she didn't deserve me. Barnaby was eventually convicted and sentenced to a long prison term. Isolde faced her own consequences, including losing her job at the school and facing public scrutiny. But she slowly began to rebuild her life. She found a new job, she started therapy, and she worked hard to regain the trust of her friends and family. We never got back together. The damage was too great, the trust too broken. But we remained friends and we supported each other through the difficult times. I eventually moved away from the Cotswolds, seeking a fresh start in a new environment. Years later, I received a letter from Isolde. She had remarried, she wrote, to a kind and honest man who loved her for who she was. She had learned from her mistakes, she said, and she was finally happy. I smiled as I read her words. I was happy for her, and I was grateful that, despite the pain and betrayal, we had both found a way to move on and find peace. The rain outside had stopped, and the sun was shining through the clouds. It was a new day, a new beginning, and I was ready to embrace it.